I gave this player a return match where I roundly beat him, and then he asked for yet another return match. So I played a black and then a white game, and then I agreed to play another black game with him. And I wondered what he might have up his sleeve as white, so I'd played an ultra defensive game. I didn't play the same as I had played in the first black game. So this is my defensive kind of posture. And lock it up for a closed game. Much prefer a closed game, especially in defensive situations where they're going to be pushing. And obviously my knight has to come in 2 steps to get onto any usable squares. And he can't now advance until I've got my king castled. So I just got annoyed and decided I would try to kick the bishop straight away and create some unusual things on this queen side here. Just make things look a little bit different, a little bit unusual. Maybe catch him out through that. And this is nice, just locking up that knight there so his knight can't advance. Bit unusual. I mean, you might have expected this, but of course then that just allows his knight a nice juicy square there to sit on, so we can't have that. So looks a bit odd, but that's how I did it. And then I put my knight here because my knight does have some juicy squares. So to here. Quantum's not good there. I could take the pawn and have the pawn recaptured. Take the knight. He recaptures. It's not really worth the candle. What's the point? Better to have a nice advanced square for my knight. So he brings out the other knight onto the only square he can get onto. And I bring out my other knight. And now his queen is added to the fray. And I put my rook here just in anticipation I might need to defend that rook pawn. I don't think this was a very good move, but that's why it was. That's why I did it. Of course, if I recapture here with the rook, he wins the knight, so I have to recapture with the pawn. So basically, we've made the chessboard one column smaller. And now he attacks with the bishop. And I decide to just get rid of that threat so that my knight can stay on that square and I can stop his pawn from advancing and pushing forward after he inevitably captures my pawn, which is twice attacked at the moment. It's only once attacked now because of the queen having moved.
Kingside castling.
And I castle straight away. Now he renews the attack on the pawn. My queen comes in. His queen comes in, and I can't actually mount any more things. I can just bring in this loose pawn, but obviously it's just going to cause an exchange. A nice little threat there of check with taking his knight, and that's part of the reason I did that little pawn exchange there. Thought he might not see that. I might get lucky. That would win me the knight and the extra pawn. But didn't happen. He gets the pawn, and I'm not taking that knight. I just have to let the pawn go. Stick a little pin there, a little revealed check coming for his rook, which he doesn't actually really see or care about. I suppose it doesn't matter. There's nothing I can do with my rook as I reveal that check, except just come back here. In fact, that was a mistake. Should have come here to cover his knight forking possibilities for later, but that's to be seen in a moment. Now he retreats, and I bring my bishop here just to help with any exchange of pawns that might happen, just in case we have a little exchange of pawns there on the c-file. And this is just an anchor for my own knight on my king side to be able to get up into the game there with a 2-square move up onto the f4 square. And back comes his knight, looking for another angle, or releasing a square for the pawns to advance. And I just decide that I don't like these knights. He loves his knights. Here's the threat. Here's the threat of check on the king, winning the queen. So since my knight's undefended anyway, I just have to take here. And now I can go back to here. And now if we look at how all of that flurry has unfolded, he is precisely 1 pawn up. And he's got a knight for a bishop, but it's a very weak knight at the moment. Can't move to many places. In fact, the only place that he can move is the very furthest square up there in the corner from my queen. And now he pushes the pawn. This is the right move. However, it's he should have got more artillery on it first. He should have put a rook behind it or something, because now I can do this. And I've actually just won the pawn. He had a passed pawn and now he doesn't. And as you will see, the number of passed pawns at the end of this game is pretty crucial. So off he comes with his knight. He likes his knights, but he's not that adept at handling their squares they go on to, I don't think. And here's a kind of forced exchange, really. He's kind of got to do this. Otherwise, I'll simply have the knight. Well, if he doesn't take the rook, I can take the rook with impunity. If he doesn't take it, then I can also take the knight. If he moves it out of the way, then I can cover the knight, take the knight with impunity. So it's a kind of a forced exchange there. And it's rather nifty that I've got this black bishop with these two black pawns. Very, very useful. And I was hoping that he would move his... I was really hoping that he would move his rook to that square. Of course, he can't move it to the ideal square. Which would then prevent that, because obviously I'll just take him. So bishops versus rooks can be pretty interesting stuff. So as I say, he can only really come to this square, and in terms of the open files. And then I'm here, and he attacks the pawn, and it's already defended. It's already defended a move ago. But I can run that home with that. And really, there's not a lot a rook can do to get through a bishop and a pawn combination. So they're safe. They're very safe, those pawns at the moment. Till the knight gets involved, perhaps. And so I've got to push on quick. And took with the rook, just to keep these pawns in powerful little groups. I think that was important. And he moves the knight. There's not a lot he can do, really, to block this idea that it's coming up. I think maybe it would have been better,
Check.
In retrospect,
Check.
to go with that. I mean, that looks a lot better now, doesn't it?
Check. Check.
It looks a lot better than what unfolded. I'm a fan of this sort of take the pawn and then have a revealed check and use that rook to do something else. But it didn't really work because he saw it coming. And then I had to sort of, lollop along with an extra move to try and attack this pawn, which would have been completely unnecessary had I done it the other way.
Check.
And now he comes down with a check, as expected. And there's not really a lot he can do, to be honest. He's got a nice little rook knight fork here. But I also have a nice little pawn here to take. And after this, I would love him to take my rook, because I've got two whole pawns up, as I said. He let that one pawn go so easily. He might have found it more easy to deal with just one passed pawn here, one extra pawn, but two is very difficult. And I'm not the best player in the world, but I'm clearly better than him at this point. Now I let this other pawn go here for speed, just to give myself an extra move.
Check.
I know he did it with check,
Check.
but it strands his rook. His rook now has to take two moves to get out of there, or use the check move. But even with the check move, he's still going to find himself a little bit stuck in the corner there. Meanwhile, I'm bringing these babies home. And I'm bringing them home fast. So this is all just trying to be as accurate as possible.
Check.
Get the king into the middle.
Check.
Let him use his checks to bring my king into the middle, and now bring my king in as a piece, in as an attacking piece against his king, covering squares, so his king cannot come out and join the game.
Check. Check.
And now he's going for perpetual check. So we've got to get out of that. We do that by hiding behind the rook, or, well, we first of all do this. Again, this will be a passed pawn that he will not be able to stop with his king. I'll just stay in front of it. I've managed to get in front of my pawns. His king has been in the corner. It's not the right place for it. And now I can get in here. He's still got nothing he can take.
Check.
A little check, because, well, he could have advanced to here. I don't think it would have done him a lot of good.
Check.
So back he goes a little bit. And the pawns keep coming. King comes here. Another one keeps coming. What we now have is a little bit of a danger as the pawns come up of him coming from the back to check me.
Check.
So I'll give him a quick check first.
Check.
And then another one. And then this move, closing up these pawns just to create this nice block of 4 squares on the last but one rank. Rook can slide along and keep checking the king if necessary. But it's also instant mate if I move the rook to that last file. So he's got to do something. He's got to come over
Check.
and check me. But as I say, my rook is safe there, sliding along that little
Check.
thing. Now I can go here.
Check.
And now I can block with the rook. And now he really is in big trouble. He goes for this pawn. And this is the move that ends the game.
Check.
It's check here. And the problem is, if he keeps his king on the only square that can defend that queening square, he gets
Promotion
double
to
check.
queen.
And because it's double check, he has lost. The only move available is to move the king. In fact, the only move available is to take this pawn here. And it's an easy win from there. I don't think I've got a checkmate. No, I haven't.
Check.
Far too far away. I
Promotion to queen.
I looked at some funny ideas like, promoting to a knight.
Promotion to knight.
Just for a laugh, because, again, as I say, the only thing he can do there with his rook is block.
Check.
It might have been amusing. It might have been quite amusing to do that, to do something like that. Then get the queen home later and let him have a go at trying to get these home. Might have been fun. Just let him have it. Let him do it.
Check.
And then
Promotion to queen.
then do the queening. And he's going to come up here maybe and attack my
Check.
rook. Where's he going to go now?
Checkmate.
And that would have been checkmate with a knight. Rather a nice little checkmate. But anyways, it wasn't to be.
Promotion to queen.
This was a resigning point.